For more on Europe's refugee crisis and some of the economic behind it, we welcome Werner Hoyer, who is the president of the European Investment Bank. Mr. Hoyer, many in Europe are concerned the region has enough problems on its hands at the moment, especially financial ones. Can Europe afford millions of refugees, and how much will it cost?
Well, we have to face realities, and realities means we have millions of refugees in Europe. Nobody knows how much more are going to come. And just to take care of those who are already here will require huge investments. And in addition to that, there is a huge interest with the European Union to make sure that people have a chance to stay where they are in the countries of origin and countries of transit. And therefore, it is absolutely necessary to help those countries to take the biggest burden right now, which is Jordan, for instance, with 1.5 million refugees among 6 million of their own inhabitants. We have the same situation, a similar situation in Jordan and in Turkey and Egypt. So we have an interest in helping these countries to cope with the challenge there.
Now, your organization, the European Investment Bank, wants to increase lending in these countries that you mentioned. What do you want to achieve there?
Well, I think it's necessary, first of all, to make sure that humanitarian disaster is ended. Therefore, it doesn't take loans, it takes grants. And therefore, I'm glad that at the conference in London last week, the member states of the European Union and others pledged cash for the World Food Programme and the UNHCR. So that's the first need. The second need, however, is investments in order to bring perspectives, economic perspectives to the region. Incentives for people to stay, to set up their own businesses via microfinance and other instruments. So this is necessary if we want to stop or reduce the flow of refugees coming to Europe. So from that point of view, it makes sense to invest into these countries.
And what are the areas that the money would be going into?
Well, let's see if the most urgent needs are education and health. And housing, of course, because it's a disaster if children for years and years don't have access to schools. It's a disaster if people don't have access to good hospitals, because otherwise they're forced to move north and try to find a hospital in Munich or in London or in Amsterdam. So from that point of view, it is necessary to bring the necessary infrastructure for staying and for developing economic perspectives to these countries.
Now, you mentioned infrastructure. You're also always looking for co-funders. Do you have these co-funders that will get engaged in these countries?
I think what we can do is to leverage the limited budgetary means which the member states and the European Union itself have in order to make much more out of it. That's the one co-financing that takes place. The other co-financing could take place if projects are made bankable and therefore private investors come to it as well. And thirdly, we are the by far biggest bank involved in the region. And we do not lend out public money. What the money we lend, we have to borrow on the market. So we sell bonds roughly 60 to 90 billion per year in order to be able to do projects like that.
Werner Hoyer was the president of the European Investment Bank. Thank you so much for being here.